Presented by Listen Headlines, latest world news from trusted sources. Updating daily at 6 a.m. New York.
BBC News World.
December 7, 5:06 America, New York. Big cats. U.S. Senate unanimously passes bill to curb private ownership. The Big Cat Public Safety Act seeks to stop people exploiting animals such as lions and tigers for profit.
New York Times World News. December 7, 5 o'clock America, New York. India chases clean energy, but economic goals put coal first. I will not compromise on the availability of power, India's energy minister has declared in defense of fossil fuel use, which is heavily subsidized. Meena Devi cooking on a wood-fired stove outside her home in New Delhi.
RT World News.
December 7, 4:28 America, New York. China announces major changes to COVID restrictions. Beijing has dropped controversial measures that saw entire residential blocks sealed off for weeks. China's government has unveiled new COVID policies and eased some of the more controversial restrictions.
New York Times World News.
December 7, 4:15 America, New York. China's zero COVID policy changes explained. The Chinese government ordered officials to cut back on mass testing and hair-trigger regional lockdowns, in a pivot from stringent pandemic rules. Workers were moving a COVID testing booth in Beijing on Saturday, after local officials started easing policies.
BBC News World. December 7, 3:55 America, New York. Spanish train collision outside Barcelona injures scores. Two trains collide near Barcelona on Wednesday morning, leaving at least 155 people injured.
Mirror World News. December 7, 3:48 America, New York. Barcelona train crash. At least 150 injured as train smashes into full carriage during rush hour. Emergency services for Catalonia said that 150 people were in a mild condition, while 5 others were left in a less serious condition, and 3 were taken to hospital as a precaution.
New York Times World News.
December 7, 3:46 America, New York. Germany arrests 25 people suspected of planning a coup. Many of those detained had military training and were believed to belong to a recently formed group that operated on the conviction that the country was ruled by the so-called deep state. Security officers in Frankfurt on Wednesday after raids against 25 people suspected of belonging to a domestic terrorism group.
Wall Street Journal World News.
December 7, 3:38 America, New York. EU files complaint in WTO over China's trade retaliation on Lithuania. The complaint relates to punitive trade restrictions that Beijing imposed on the European Union country last year after its moves to support Taiwan. Mirror World News.
December 7, 3:38 America, New York. French bulldog named Bob helps collar drug gang and stop £45 million smuggling plot. Bob, a French bulldog, played a vital role in the efforts of law enforcement agents to catch a drug gang and stop their plot to smuggle £45 million of MDMA into Australia.
Washington Post World.
December 7, 3:38 America, New York. Train collision in northeastern Spain injuries 70. Spanish officials say 2 trains have collided near Barcelona and several dozen people have been hurt.
BBC News World. December 7, 3:22 America, New York. Harry and Meghan. A ripple of hope can turn into a wave of change. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex attended a gala in New York where they were honored for their racial justice and mental health work.
Wall Street Journal World News.
December 7, 2:35 America, New York. China scraps most COVID testing, quarantine rules. China took another step away from its stringent COVID-19 controls, easing quarantine and testing requirements and curtailing the power of local officials to shut down entire city blocks and raise barriers to domestic travel.
World News. Breaking international news and headlines. Sky News.
December 7, 2:33 America, New York. German police raids target group suspected of far-right plot to overthrow government. Around 3,000 police officers have carried out raids across Germany to stop an alleged plot by a far-right terrorist group to overthrow the government.
Time.
December 7, 2:30 America, New York. China eases its strict zero COVID rules. Beijing. In a sharp reversal, China has announced a series of measures rolling back some of its most draconian anti-COVID-19 restrictions, including limiting harsh lockdowns and ordering schools without known infections to resume regular classes. Washington Post World.
December 7, 2:09 America New York, report, 25 people detained in far-right raids across Germany. German news agency dpa reports that 25 people have been detained as part of a series of raids against suspected far-right extremists across the country early Wednesday.
RT World News.
December 7, 2:08 America New York, EU nation out of capacity for Ukrainian refugees. People arriving in Estonia will be urged to move on to Finland. Prime Minister Kallas has said Estonia will not be able to handle a possible new influx of refugees from Ukraine and expects other EU nations, such as Finland, to accommodate them, Prime Minister Kaja Kallas has said.
Wall Street Journal World News.
December 7, 2:04 America New York. U.S. plans broad increase of military presence in Australia. The U.S. and Australia agreed to deepen defense cooperation amid growing concerns about China's actions in the Indo-Pacific region.
Mirror World News.
December 7, 1:53 America New York. Man claims he was abducted, raped and left for dead by a gang of 4 women. Police are investigating after a man in his 20s claimed he was raped by a group of young women before being dumped in a forest after allegedly being kidnapped and drugged.